Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Tuesday topic. Today's topic is Mental Health in Ghana, a Transformative Intensive Course Study Abroad Experience, today with Dr. Ebony White and her panel. All right, so without any further ado, let me throw it over to you, Dr. Ebony White, to introduce yourself in the panel. And thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you, Darren. And thank you all who have come. Feel free to turn on your cameras. But if you're unable to, I completely understand. But I like to see faces, and I'm sure that I'm going to call all of them my students. I'm sure that my students will want to see your faces as well. So just as a recap, to teach students to engage equitably and ethically in a global society, it's important to provide immersive experiences outside of the U.S. context. Healthcare in the U.S. has a long history of engaging in disparate practices that have harmed the global majority. Furthermore, much of our curriculum in the health professions has remained stagnant, further perpetuating disparities in our healthcare systems. Our response is often to require courses that attend to health equity, diversity, multicultural factors, and social determinants of health. However, even these courses are taught through a Western lens and have minimal impact on implicit bias. Over the winter break, the students that you see on screen participated in a mental health course in Tarkwa, Ghana. Of course, I developed it with the assistance of my partners in Ghana. Hopefully they'll be able to join us today. As I was saying earlier, the Wi-Fi in Ghana isn't as stable as it has been here. But I thought that it was such an amazing and impactful experience that it would be beneficial to highlight the experiences of our students. And so I'm now going to toss it to my students to introduce themselves. So they'll tell you who they are, where they are in their respective programs, anything that they want you to know, and then we'll get right into the panel discussion. And then, of course, we'll leave time at the end for you all to engage them and ask questions as well. So I'll start with who I see first on my screen, Rebecca, and then if you can pass it to the next person, that'd be great.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca. I'm actually graduating in a month with a degree in behavioral health counseling, and I have minors in psychology and fine arts. And I will pass it to Linda.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Linda Williams, and I'm a second year dance movement therapy student, and I'll also be graduating this upcoming June. And I will pass it over to Chelsea.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name's Chelsea, and I'm in my last year of the art therapy and counseling program at Drexel. And I'm going to pass it to Tajma.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Nice to see your faces, and thanks for being here. My name is Tajma, and I am a third-year PhD candidate in the School of Education here at Drexel. Nisha.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Nisha Terry, and like Tajma, I'm also a third-year PhD candidate in the School of Education at Drexel University. Is
that everyone? Yes? I'm sorry, Dr. Akpah was calling me trying to figure out how to get on the Zoom, so I was trying to assist him. So I'm just going to jump right on in, and whoever wants to answer, feel free to answer. But I would love to know why you all chose to engage in this experience.
Okay, I guess we can go in the same order. So I chose to go on the Ghana ICA really to expand my worldview. So when I enter the behavioral health counseling field, I'll be able to provide culturally competent care. And it was when I had the opportunity presented to myself, I just thought that it was so unique and something that I couldn't pass up. And I think it's so important to just, travel when you have the opportunity. So I just took it, and yeah, that's briefly my reason.
For me, there were a few reasons. I'll try to keep it as succinct as possible. I think the first is definitely to share a little bit more about my background. I'm an Army officer, and I'm in the process of switching my job in the military over to doing civil affairs. And so within that, I have an interest in specifically working in, I guess, the area of like public health, and to kind of use my skill set as a dance movement therapist in that capacity. And so I thought this would be an awesome opportunity to observe mental health care in a global context or a West African context. And then on a personal level, being in the creative arts therapy program, we're also challenged to just get a deeper idea of like who we are and just who we are when we're talking about person of the therapist. And so for me, I found like in deepening that thought process, there are a lot of gaps there, just given what happened during colonialism, et cetera, that there are a lot of gaps in that process for me. So I felt like this was an opportunity just to kind of connect with some parts of myself that were lost along the Atlantic slave trade and what may have you, and everything that transpired from that in terms of ways of healing, connecting dance to healing as well. So that was a bit of my inquisitive process about wanting to participate in this.
All right. So for me, I actually found out about this experience pretty last minute. I think it was like a week before the deadline ended. And I was actually looking as soon as I started the program for an experience to immerse myself in another country and culture. And as soon as this came up on my radar, it was just something that I knew I wanted to jump into immediately. And I think especially the fact that it was teaching us about community mental health and wellness in another very unique context.
Okay. Tajma, Anisha, you don't have to answer, but did you want to answer this question?
I'll go ahead and answer. And so for me, my first year, I attempted to actually do a Fulbright to Ghana because my research focuses on Black youth within the African diaspora and questions of identity and navigation. And, I think part of it too is I'm also seeking to find out who I am. And, Ghana is such a big part of that in terms of, where we come from. And so, when I saw this opportunity, Tajma shared it with me, I was really eager to go and to be able to, as Linda said, try to find those pieces of myself, but also to develop this understanding of like diasporic culture and to better understand who I am in these spaces.
Similar to Vanisha, I actually found out about the program from someone else. And as an education major and within Drexel, we have to take a course outside of the School of Education. And when this ICA experience was brought to my attention, I just thought, what an incredible way to think about the education context when thinking about mental health. And what better place to do it than Ghana? I just could not believe when you just look at the course context and you're just thinking, we're going to have access to this. To me, it just seems unprecedented, and it has been and something that will stay with me forever. So I'm so happy that I found out about it.
Awesome. That was a great segue. So my partner in Ghana is here, Dr. Sylvester Akpah. Can you hear us? Okay, we'll come back to him. I'm going to charge Tajma with WhatsApping him, making sure he can hear us so that we can move forward. And so I was going to ask him to talk more about the process of developing the course. And so briefly, so everybody understand what happened. My background is in mental health. And so, of course, I would develop an ICA around the mental health context in Ghana. And so this experience was very, very full. And it began with us, and it began with a community feeling, right? The very first thing we did when we landed was have like basically this, I don't want to call it a cookout, but that's what I liken it to. We had this welcome reception at our host home where he had people coming to, cook for us, serve us food. There was music playing. We were engaging with one another immediately right off the bat. We knew this was going to be a community engaged experience. We were able to visit one of the Cape Coast Castle, which is where they enslaved Africans. That's how our experience began. And then we had the long trek to Tarkwa, Ghana, where mining is really what sustains the economy in that area. And we were able to visit hospitals, one psychiatric hospital, 2 hospitals with a psychiatric unit. We visited 2 schools, one in a village that took us a trek to get to, and one where we were able to interact with adolescents as well, probably the brightest adolescents that we've ever encountered. We were able to visit a prayer camp, which is probably the most popular way of treating mental health issues. In Ghana, we were able to go to radio stations to do advocacy around mental health, and we were able to visit clients who are maintained in the community and visit them in their homes and with their families and things of that nature. And I know I'm forgetting some things, but this was a truly an immersive experience, and truly, I know the students will say, an intensive experience, because in between all of that, we had very long days. They still had assignments to do as well. So I will now pick on certain people, and I'll say, Tajma, what challenged you the most during this experience?
So I was thinking about that question, and I would say me, again, saying that I'm an education major and stepping into this experience thinking, what do I know about mental health? And I am not an expert by no means. And I think it all came to a head at the radio station when I thought we were just going to go to the radio station and but we were immersed. They were asking us questions. There were callers. But I think something that helped me through that challenge was something that you did, Dr. White, throughout, was approaching mental health in the Ghanaian context, the United States context, as a similarities versus difference, that from that approach, that lens. So I think it was challenging, was me having to get the courage to say, well, maybe I do have more to add to the discussion. And again, as you said, it was so intensive that I think by the end, I felt much better in a place to actually be able to do so, because it wasn't just visiting places and learning. It was actually assignments and presentations and being fully immersed and engaged throughout, daily. So that was a challenge, but I think I overcame it, hopefully.
Absolutely. Yeah, the students even had an opportunity to participate they were broken up into 2 groups. And so at one of the hospitals, they participated in an intake for clients, and they had to present their case to the staff in the hospital. So they were truly given a wonderful experience. Chelsea, what challenged you most during this experience?
I think I would say holding a mirror up to myself the entire time and continually checking on biases, noticing how I was in the space. I think, I would say that was probably like the biggest challenge, just constantly being aware of that.
Absolutely. I'll go to Linda, and then if anyone else wants to chime in, feel free. Linda, what challenged you most during this experience?
I think for me, it's just as a dance movement therapist, just conveying that to everyone I was engaging with, to include even like my peers here to a certain extent. I know during the intake, I felt like I was fighting for my life in a sense, just trying to just use like these different, my dance movement therapy lens to just explain what I was seeing and having conversations about that. I will say that it's definitely helped and built my confidence for sure. Just in being able to talk about it, but even just the radio station, just being able to talk about the work that I do with dance movement therapy, it's just it's a bit of a spectrum. It can look really introspective, doing breathing practices, focusing on internal sensations, and it can also be, flat out dancing and I'll let your imagination fill in the rest of the gaps there. But it's just so broad, so it's just really difficult to frame that, and then also being in an international setting and being able to frame that as well. But it's definitely for the best, but that was a struggle for me.
Thank you. Did anyone else want to chime in before we move forward?
Yeah, I can. So for me, this was such a monumental experience because I'm really at the start of everything, kind of I'm about to graduate from undergrad, and it was, to me, this huge opportunity to really show what real life is like to the extreme, because we're in a different country. And so there was so much pressure. And for me specifically, being the youngest of my peers, I was really in my head and felt a little insecure about lacking experience. And yeah, being in having such long days and getting like adjusting to the environment was really difficult. And especially, as one of you mentioned, like doing the intake form, I had never done that here. So I was like, oh my God, this is so crazy. Like but it was such a supportive environment, that there was always somebody that I could reach to kind of, like, everyone was so supportive and we would process with each other. And I slowly every day kind of found that pressure and stress kind of alleviating. And I sort of came to the realization that I can't just, go from 0 to 100 and immediately have all this experience. I need to go through something like this to gain perspective. And the environment really helped me foster that and a sense of togetherness, but also taking on this challenge independently.
And just very quickly, I wanted to add that for me, it was this expanding notion of cultural competence, just that reminder that cultural competence is not a destination, but a journey. And so you're always growing in how you understand other cultures and how you understand yourself within that space. And so that was really a challenge for me, but also opportunities for growth.
And so stay unmuted, Nisha. What surprised you the most about this experience?
I will say that so many things surprised me. I was surprised because I felt so at home. I felt like I was home. But, life is a journey. And I went to Ghana with all these ideas of what I was going to find. But I find so many other things that I didn't know I was looking for. Right now I'm writing my dissertation, and quite a big part of my conceptual framework came from that experience in Ghana, the way in which I was able to connect, with the children, the way in which I learned more about what I didn't know and what I needed to know. And so I was surprised by finding the me I didn't know I needed to find, and finding the Ghana I didn't expect to find, and so it speaks to the fact that we need to be open and go in being willing to learn. Yeah.
All right. What about others? What surprised you about this experience?
I think one of the things that surprised me was how intense the schedule was when we actually got there. I knew ahead of time, like we had quite a few things each day, but it was even more when we got there. Which I was pleasantly surprised, even though it was definitely hard. It was really intense, like cognitive experience for me, just like constantly thinking about things. And I feel like it was similar across everyone with that. But yeah, I think the schedule is what surprised me a bit.
Linda, I saw that you unmuted.
Yes. So I'll second that. Chelsea, yes, the schedule. I knew it was the intensive course in Ghana, abroad, but it was definitely another level of intensity. So challenging, but yes, definitely engaging. But my actual comment was also going to be, again, as a dance movement therapist, just for me going into Ghana, a West African country, I'm aware that when it comes to like dance and music is very, I want to say like very innate to Ghanaian culture. And I remember even like one of our hosts, Dr. Darko, the first night I had kind of like asked him about, when it comes to dance and mental health, like, what can I expect? And he was just like, I think you'll see that it's very core to like the essence of being Ghanaian, like that connection. But I was actually surprised to see when we went to some of the institutions or the hospitals, when it came to mental health care, I didn't see dance being used in that way. I didn't see it at all. That's not to say it wasn't going on at all, but I just didn't really see that. And even in asking questions, it didn't seem like it was something that was intentionally being used to improve or as like a treatment when you talk about that. So socially, I saw it everywhere. But when it came to institutionalized mental health care, I didn't see it as much. So that was a bit of a shocker to me.
And Tajma, I saw you react. Yeah.
Yes, because I'm taking it all in, and just as everyone is speaking, I'm just like reliving it. And a lot surprised me. One saying that it was intensive, yes, but I thought that there was such an excellent balance of us learning, but us also being fully immersed in all the parts of the culture. I thought that was really well done. And I was also surprised at how fast I felt like this is my family. I call it the family van because we were in that van every day, all day, every day. And I just felt like it was just such an incredible experience to be, and such the community partnership. I was really moved by that, surprised that we, I guess, gelled so quickly. And I think it's because the way we started off with, in my head, I'd call it a house party, but it was a welcoming. And it was just the amount that we did in that time. And I was also surprised that myself, there are things that I've never thought that I would be able to do. Like one of my most memorable experiences was on the beach. And being on the beach for 2 days and having my own tent and saying there's no way. And just having the presentations on the beach, it was incredible, but there was so much that surprised me, but it was all great surprises.
Nice. So I'm going to take a break. I think Dr. Akpah is able to unmute. Can you hear us, Dr. Akpah? Can you talk about what went into the planning of the experience from your end?
Okay. Thank you so much. I want to welcome everyone on this call, and greetings from Ghana. Accra, Ghana. Yes. So I think that the ICA program last year was a very exciting program. I want to say kudos to you, Dr. White, for championing this course right from Philly to Ghana. And also, I don't know if Dr. Darko is also on this call because he said he was going to join. Yes. So I think the planning for the ICA program, it was a bit easy. Could I say yes? I think it was a bit easy because we did a similar thing with the Center for Global Health, UPenn, I think in 2019. So we were able to piece the pieces together that we left off in 2019 to actually reinforce our efforts for what we did last year. I'll say right down from Accra down to Tarkwa. Yes, there were some lots of arrangements that had to go in, or the various institutions that we visited. We had to make prior arrangements, visit those environments, engage with all the persons that we need to engage to seek approvals before it started. I think that there were some few learning points that we actually took from last year's ICA program, which is actually going to help us to strengthen our planning for this year. Hopefully, I know that it's going to come on again, and we are waiting and planning feverishly to welcome all those who are going to be part of this year's program. Those who were on last year, if they want to come again, we actually excited to welcome all of them back to Ghana. And even this year is going to be even bigger. The experience, yes, the hard part of the experience, I think, is still going to be there because Dr. White tells us that students are here to study. Yes, in as much as we are going to intersperse the studying with lots of fun activities here and there, I just want to tell everyone on this call that Ghana is actually a peaceful place to be. Firm Health Ghana Foundation, we're actually ready to continue hosting students from Drexel through Dr. White. So please apply as much as you can. And we are just a call away. My number, I can make my number available. Anybody who wants to call me can just contact me. If you want to reach out to me through Dr. White, you do that and I'll respond to you at any time. Yeah, thank you.
Dr. Akpah, you said something that I was going to get into, but something that I really appreciated about our experience is that everywhere we went, we had to get permission for entry. Can you talk about that process?
Yes. I think that for the processes, there are some points that we had to do a prior engagement so that it actually makes your entry smooth. Just like the Cape Coast Castle, obviously we actually have to pay to enter because it's actually a tourist site that the government actually generates some few bits of CDs or dollars to help the economy. So we actually need to pay to enter. But then there are some other places too that we don't need to pay. But then if you look at it, for the tourist attraction sites, obviously in anywhere in the country or across the world, any country that has tourist attraction sites, obviously you need to pay to gain access. So these are things that we are going to do. So there's something different that we are going to do this year as it is. I think that last year we noted, as I said, there were some few points that we noted in terms of the long travel distances that we had. This year, we are going to redefine that a bit, where we are going to actually cut the long travel times so that we want students to actually be engaged in the daily activities. We don't need to spend so much time traveling.
Yeah. Can I interject for a second? So the process I was talking about, like when we went to the hospitals, we had to meet with I can't remember the position, but we had to meet with the head of the hospital. And then we went into the community, we met with the chief of the village.
Exactly.
Before we started visiting Tarkwa, we had to meet with the head of the region. And so can you talk about that process?
Okay, yes. So, as we say, anytime you're actually visiting somewhere, you need to consult or confer with the elders first. So it's actually important. And in Ghana, morality is something that we don't downplay at all. So whenever we're actually visiting any community, it's actually important that we engage with the community heads. And through the engagements, obviously, we actually need to, introduce everybody. So whoever it is, we actually need to introduce you, make them aware where you are coming from, what you do, and all that, so that it doesn't look like we have visitors actually flooding our community without us knowing exactly what they are coming to do, whether they are coming to benefit, they are going to benefit something from the visitors, or the visitors are coming to take something from the community. So it's actually important that community leaders actually engage so that they give us their blessings as it is. They give us their blessings for us to now go ahead into the community and do everything that we have to do. So it is two ways. So most of these things, we need to do a prior arrangement, okay? So that when you come, it will become an easy flow. We just need to introduce you where you're coming from, and then we go ahead and do whatever we have to do. Or we hold on. When you come, then we now go into the community and do the pre-engagement. But I think that in our setting, what we are going to do is that we are going to do the prior engagement so that when you come, we are not going to waste time to now go and engage all the community leaders. So all this will be done ahead of time. Then once you come, we just do the necessary introductions from our end, and then they also introduce themselves from their end. And I believe that it will become a smooth sail for us to engage the community as much as we want to engage them.
Thank you so much. I actually like that part. I think it was important for us to seek that permission because I think it was Linda who brought up the history and harm of colonialism and how, we didn't want to come in as voyeuristic or come in, like anthropologists did. We're like, well, let me take from the people and learn and not get the blessing and benefit of the region. So we really appreciated that part of the experience. Thank you, Dr. Akpah. You said Dr. Darko is on?
Dr. Darko, I think if you call Dr. Darko, give me. So that's Selassie there. Hello. Dr. White.
Oh, hi, Selassie.
Hello.
He was a part of our experience.
Yes.
So I'll go back.
Dr. White, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to go back to the panel questions while you see if Dr. Darko can join us.
Okay, great. That's fine.
Thank you.
So you can call him. That's fine.
Hello, right. Dr. White. Can I share something at this point?
Okay. I was hoping to save it to the end, but go ahead.
No, I just wanted to share exactly what Dr. Akpah was just referencing. As you know, I went under the Civic Diplomacy Award, and Dr. Joel Afi, who I'm pretty sure Dr. Sylvester knows, we have similar experiences in terms of access. So I wanted to share that, we went into Accra and then Karanza and then Kumasi, and the same exact sort of, having to show deference, acknowledgement, identification, and then seeking to learn, not to pull, right? Having some reciprocity. So I just wanted to share that was a very similar experience under the Civic Diplomacy Award. And that was actually targeted for 100 women empowerment. And yes, when you see the women with their children and the children come over and they're so eager to understand who you are, why you are, what you are, it's such a rewarding experience. I just wanted to share that similarity.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Carey. All right. So we have 2 more questions, and then folks, please, I invite the audience to ask questions after that. So I'm going to let everyone answer this question. What was the highlight of this experience for you? And I know that's a difficult question because there were so many, but if you could try to choose one, maybe 2, what was the highlight of this experience for you?
This question is not fair. It's too many. I have to boil it down to one. I think it was like, I would call it the closing out ceremony where we, at the end, we were on the beach and we did our final presentations about everything. So it was just all on a whole, we were partnered up, and we got to discuss the experience all basically just for the whole 10 days. But afterwards, I was so surprised at the beautiful dance that they had for us. We had food and it was dancing, and we were allowed to get up and dance, something that I hadn't done in so long. It was just, what a beautiful world experience. And I think that was the highlight, was just that everyone coming together at the end and we're sharing, this is what we learned, and then also just being immersed in the culture and all of us celebrating one another. I think that was the highlight if I had to choose one.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll go off of that. I was also going to say that definitely being on the beach at the end of our experience, it was definitely a lot of fun and a lot of celebration, but also a time to reflect. And with everyone, our partner presentations, I mean, that was kind of insane because I literally presented like watching the sunset on the water with everyone there. And it was just such a beautiful experience that I will never, ever forget. So just really taking those last moments to enjoy everybody's presence and reflect on everything. And just kind of, it was one of those moments that you rarely get in life to really kind of be like, is this actually real? And just take a moment, which is always easier, at least for me, to do in nature, to kind of express your gratitude, kind of with others, but also within yourself. So it was a really incredible moment that sort of wrapped everything up really nicely, and that I'll always treasure in my heart.
Yeah. Chelsea.
Yeah, I was also going to say our experience at the beach. I can add more to what other people were saying too, that we were taking what we learned and incorporating it into each of our specialties. Since Rebecca and I were interested in art therapy, we were able to talk about how we could incorporate what we learned into art therapy in the future. And we got to show what our practices are like to everyone by like drawing in the sand, and then connecting all of our artwork together and talking about like future hopeful connections with the community that we created there. And there's another aspect that I wanted to highlight, was the in-between moments, in between going from place to place, sitting on the bus and listening to music and thinking and talking and just like having really deep discussions, going from place to place, just processing everything that we were seeing and feeling. and experience. I think that was something that I'll definitely treasure for a long time.
And then there were two.
I have to agree with Tajma when she said, it's hard to find or to identify one moment when the entire trip was filled with highlights. But for me, it was doing karaoke. When we were in Tarkwa, it was just amazing. I am a naturally reserved person, but just in that moment, we were all singing. Sometimes they say music is like a universal language. And I just felt so connected to, all my cohort mates. We were all there together as classmates, but just everybody else within that space. And I don't know, it was just a powerful moment for me. And then we did karaoke on the beach. And again, it was really powerful. It was amazing. And so it kind of connects to what Chelsea spoke about with music. I think music really was that language that we all spoke on that trip.
Absolutely. Linda?
So since I spoke last, of course, everyone took all of my highlights. It's fine. But I want to say definitely to piggyback off of some of what everyone's sharing, just definitely the beach. That final night there, that was everything. I think the group kind of summed it up. Chelsea, I also want to piggyback off of what you said, just like the sidebar conversations. That was, I feel like, so insightful, just to be able to sit and just have conversation, to get more of a depth of understanding. Those were like little special moments that I really cherish as well. But I want to say something that we didn't touch on is like the dance circle we had. I think it was our first night in Tarkwa. That was so much fun. I think like on top of our initial reception, if you will, that was kind of like a second layering to it. But there was food, there was dancing, there was music. And I think just about everybody who was there was like dancing. And this circle went on for hours of just like dancing and dancing and dancing. And that was really special. I felt like, yes, we were like initially kind of welcomed in and acquainted the first night, but I felt like that was like when everybody really got to loosen up. And I want to even say that's probably why I won't speak for everyone here, but I felt like such a connection so quickly to all of you. I think with the exception of Chelsea, and I even just saw you around. I don't think we even had conversation, honestly, being in the creative arts therapy program until like maybe a little bit more after that night, and also our interactions here. So that was just a really beautiful way to kind of deepen that connection, like pretty early on for me.
Yeah, I must say, I'm surprised that no one mentioned the amazing experience we had at Cape Coast Castle, but I think that also that's such a sacred experience that we had as well. So I honor the protection around it. But then also, I just want to say Nisha is a mother. She is Queen Mother, because the babies were so attracted to Nisha. She became a mama, I believe, for a good portion of that trip. And I know that was impactful for all of us to view. So my last question is, and I think that this is why students reach out to me asking if this was going to be recorded. What would you want students to know who are interested in taking this course?
For me, there's two sides to this, two answers to this. And the first one would be just preparedness logistically, because it was not an easy process for me. And I know some of my peers can relate to this because you need to get a visa. And so all of the traveling sort of things is super important to iron out and be on top of, because it definitely got kind of confusing. And so that's super important. And on the other side, with the actual experience and being there and preparing yourself mentally for the work and all of that, the most important thing is to have an open mind and be patient and kind of just be ready for anything. Be ready to experience and create incredible relationships with other people, but also be prepared to really be challenged, because that, like, every day there were just challenges, whether it was new information that I was taking in or just hard conversations and things to process within myself. It definitely takes a lot of mental strength and focus, but also like putting in the effort to care for yourself, and most importantly, the people around you, and be cautious in every place that you step into, just acknowledging your role, how you show up in those spaces, and to be respectful of the people that are hosting you. That is easily the most important thing.
I'm going to jump on, piggyback off of Rebecca and think about preparation in another way too. Something that was really helpful. It was helpful for me, and I don't know what everyone else think, but I thought it was wonderful that we had an assignment prior to even arriving in Tarkwa, which was reading the articles about the Ghanaian mental health system. And also I prepared, I thought it was important too, is I knew that we were going to be in Ghana and Tarkwa particularly. So I wanted to think of ways that, you know, I could be respectful. So I looked up certain greetings. I think you have to be really intentional with the language you're using. I learned new language when during the experience, where like calling mental health instead of patients, calling them clients. So I was just being really intentional in everything that I did before. But I think preparation leading into the trip is really important. And Dr. White and E.G. Robinson, they made sure of that by preparing us with information. And I think it's, like Rebecca said, being open-minded as well, and just being respectful of the culture and that language. Know you people, and, you know, just making sure that you're mindful of that.
Something I would want to add is I'd like for students to know that they're going to grow. And growth is not always comfortable, but that's okay. You know, so be prepared to, whatever you're going into it with, be prepared to grow in who you are and to come back changed. You cannot go on this experience and return the same person that you went as. But that's wonderful. It's beautiful. So be prepared to grow. Be prepared to be a little bit uncomfortable, but be prepared to be transformed.
Yeah, I'll definitely second that, Nisha. Mine was going to be to definitely be prepared to be challenged, to step outside of your comfort zone, just to be uncomfortable, and learning just how to navigate and manage that in the process. But I can speak for myself personally. I'm at a park, so sorry, there's like yelling around me. But I don't know, for me personally, it was just for the better. But yeah, just being prepared to be challenged, stepping outside of your comfort zone. That's the only way, Nisha, as you said, that growth actually happens, is by expanding those boundaries. So keeping an open mind.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people covered topics that I was already going to talk about. Just learning, unlearning, breaking down walls and barriers that you may have set up and not have known. But I think also just like aspects within what we experience, like doing a presentation in front of like 800 high school students was not something I was ready for, but we did it and it was amazing. We spoke on the radio about mental health and like just being immersed in so many like really amazing experiences. I would just say, like, go do it.
Awesome. I like that, learning and unlearning, right? There's an unlearning that also took place during that. Well, thank you all. So now it's open. I see we have a couple of folks from the Ghana side who are here. So we're here to answer all your questions. So if you have any questions, this is the time you can ask. Roberta.
Thank you. This is a lovely presentation, and I'm really excited to have heard all of the experiences that you've had. The one question I wanted to know, well, I have a lot of questions, but the one thing I'll ask right now is, can you talk a little bit more from the student standpoint about the partner presentations that you did? Like what were they? Because it sounded like it was presentations, but also a lot of celebrations. So I'm just curious about that.
So she said from the student perspective, so that's y'all, not me.
Yeah, I could try and jump in and fill in what I can remember of like the different aspects of what we were required to present on, and other people could fill in and see if I missed anything. But we were presenting on what we learned, what we took away from each of our experiences. We were showing our gratitude to our hosts for having us, and we were finding ways to connect what we learned throughout each of our experiences throughout Accra and Tarkwa with our professions back in the US. So art therapy, dance movement therapy, and education.
Anyone want to add? Go ahead, Tajima.
Yeah, because there were multiple presentations and we weren't always paired with the same person, but the major presentation in the end, you were paired with someone who's in the same field as you. So Nisha and I, we were in education, but there were also, as I think Chelsea just said it, like there was a presentation that was daily. So you were paired up. So I was paired up with someone who was not here, and we had to actually, we were facilitators. So we would actually, in that day, we were there today. We had the experience, and at the end, we had about 15 minutes to prepare what questions we would ask the group about the experiences. But something that I loved is through those presentations, we started off with trying to center yourself, and just we want everyone to take in to discuss their emotions from the day, but also what they learned. So it was part educational, part. For me, it was spiritual as well. So there were different presentations throughout. Just want to remember that because I think it feels like December was so long ago, but we had at least 3 different group presentations.
Awesome. Sherry.
Thank you, Dr. White, and thank you for bringing this amazing presentation to all of us, and congrats on making such an amazing experience, bringing it to fruition. It's really incredible for our students. This question, and shout out to Linda Williams, way to go representing DMT there. This question is for students, and it goes back to the way Dr. White introduced the presentation about the connection between healthcare professionals, going into new cultural experiences, expanding, and then the link between that and actually making healthcare here in the US perhaps more equitable. And how do you maybe see the connection between the experience you've had and if it's about doing your work differently or advocating differently within our system? How do you see the threads from this moving into your work towards health equity? That's a big question. Sorry.
Oh, they got it though. They're ready. I read their paper, so they got it.
So for me, it really just speaks out, especially within dance movement therapy, just how important it is to kind of decolonize the standardization of what mental health care is. We are all different people. There are different things that work for different people. So again, just broaden the aspect of like it's therapy is not always this idea of sitting in a room and doing, I guess, psychotherapy, if you will, but it can also look like these other things. It can look like doing community work. It can look like us getting together and just being in community with each other and enjoying company and dancing and singing. Even maybe some other things as well out there. But yeah, for me, it just really just spoke to just what I want to do and how I want to frame my theoretical framework as a dance movement therapist, and just being a bit more inclusive about Indigenous practices, and being sensitive to that and bringing that in. And the last piece is just also the idea of spirituality. This has actually kind of helped being launched, just a little bit more about what I want to do for my culminating project. But yeah, the idea of spirituality, we often talk about it, but I don't feel as though there's really an understanding about what that is and what that means to other people. So it's really just been a bit of a springboard to some of that thought process and a lot of concreting what that means for me and how I want to incorporate that to my interactions with future clients and also current clients as well.
And I agree with Linda. You know, I was really impressed when I went to the Power Camp and I saw the collaboration between healthcare professionals and the community. And I think that's something that we can promote more here in the US, you know, especially among communities of color, where we need to acknowledge the role and the importance of community connections within the healthcare system and make that more accessible so we can increase equity within how we present healthcare here.
Thank you both. And thank you, Nisha, for bringing that last piece up. So when we went to the prayer camps, that's really religious leaders who are treating their community members with mental health issues. And I believe it was once a week, folks can chime in if I'm wrong, that someone from the hospital came to the prayer camp and offered, like, whether it was medication or treatment and stuff like that. It wasn't people going to get this, you know, service that really is rooted in Western practice. It was, how can we in hospital and healthcare settings meet you where you are and make sure we're respecting this as a valuable and valid mode of treatment, and just we're the adjunct to this mainstream type of therapy. So that was good, Nisha. Thank you for bringing that piece up. Any other questions? Natalie? I'm sorry, I keep saying that. Dr. Goodall, Dr. Carlton?
That's all right. Call me Natalie. Thank you. Really enjoying this, really, really excited for all the experiences and what's coming together for everybody, really listening deeply and feeling it deeply. Dr. White, you might know, but the radio part, how exciting. And I'm really curious about, I don't know, you don't have to give me a full answer. Maybe it's something I'd talk to Chelsea and Dr. White and Linda about off screen, but I find radio, I'm involved in radio at times, and I find it to be such a powerful media, you know, powerful of community building, information sharing. But anyway, it's just sort of a geek radio thoughts that I'm having. And I was just excited to hear that you had that opportunity to go to a station and kind of be a part of that kind of community building that radio can bring.
Yeah, we went to 2 stations, and I will say, I don't know who it was, but the radio day was also the day we went into the community, and a couple of the students said they would go, and it was like, people were like, we heard y'all on the radio. So it really was this immediate I can't remember who said that happened. Oh, so Chelsea and Tajma?
Yeah, I was also
Yes.
going to mention that, like, another access point where I think that was also once a week that healthcare professionals go to people's houses. So that's just another, like, community access thing that I wanted to add.
We got to actually see that firsthand. We were in partners and we actually did a home visit with the mental health professionals. And we were fully immersed because we were also asked to participate and ask questions. And I think that everything was timed so perfectly, because when we had our first experience, when we actually had, the clients between where I was thinking, I'm not asking the right questions because I wasn't thinking about the cultural aspect. By the time I went to the home visit, I had a better lens and certain questions to ask. So yes, I forgot all about that because we did so many, we were immersed. So it was every day that there was something, but I did forget about that. And that was really important. And that is once a week as well. And
go ahead, Tajma.
I was going to say something that I was so impressed about in the home visit. It wasn't just like, I'm asking you questions. They were actually the mental health professionals. They know about their clients' lives. They know about their children. So it felt very family oriented. It wasn't just, listen, I want to see how you're doing. I want to see how you're doing holistically. So I thought that was another thing when I think about highlights, that was looking at that approach. It just felt more human. I think that's something that could be brought back here.
I just wanted to add, like, one additional comment about just, like, the radio and, like, what I thought was really insightful It's just that when we're talking about like mental health care, mental health issues or illness within Ghanaian society, it's a bit taboo. It's not really something that's really like kind of done, I guess you could say, like as openly here in the US, and we even still have our challenges about having open conversations. So I thought it was cool because it provides some anonymity for whoever's calling in to talk and like have these, you know, these real deep conversations that probably wouldn't be as welcomed, you know, just having them with friends, family, what may have you. So I really appreciated that part about the radio show. Just they felt like it really keyed into who the audience is and how to conduct those conversations.
And I also love that they didn't do this just because we were there. This is something that they do on a regular basis, promoting mental health advocacy and education using the radio. So when we came, it wasn't like this new thing. Like there were, many people called into the radio station and was asking questions. And I remember specifically, I think it was Nisha looking at me like, you want me to answer this? Okay, I'll answer the question, in the mic. It was like they were really asking us, and they were asking questions about like what's the differences between the healthcare systems here. And one of the amazing things is that we always had someone with us who understood both the clinical component and the cultural component. So we never felt like we were alone. They would chime in if need be. They would answer questions. They were of course they were knowledgeable, and they were not stingy with their knowledge, right? And so it was just really nicely done. So yeah, that was fun. Maybe one last question before we end. Oh, I think there's something in the chat. Oh, Taj may answer. Yep. So there were 6 students, 1 undergrad, I want to say 2 masters, and 3 masters and 2 doctoral level. Yeah. Yep.
Can I add a little something?
Of course you can.
Well, I just want to acknowledge Dr. White. Personally, I've had her for several courses, and I really felt like this experience, I've had her for multicultural counseling, an addictions course, family-focused interventions, and with all of the courses and experiences that I've had with her, it felt like I was kind of taking all of that and I was like fully immersed. Like everything that I've learned, I was using it, and I just want to express my gratitude and just say like how well that this course, and there were kind of like, it was the first time doing this, so I think that there was like a little confusion sometimes, but Dr. White handled everything so well and made sure that we felt safe. And at the beginning of every day, she had us pick a safe person, and we would all process things together. And Dr. White has this really beautiful way of balancing like a challenge, but also the opportunity to express yourself and grow with each other. And that just made the experience what it was. So thank you for that. And I think that anybody who has her for a course, whether it's, online, in person, in Ghana, they would be very lucky to have that. And Idris as well, he's not here today, but with all of his experience with courses abroad, he definitely also made it what it was and helped us navigate conversations and, form these connections that just really propelled our learning so well.
Thank you, Rebecca. You are not going to make me cry today. I'll save that for your graduation. Thank you. So Sierra, the only prerequisite is that you have taken some course around multiculturalism, social determinants of health, so you have some fundamental understanding of culture, because we don't want anyone going into a new culture and doing harm to the population. So I would say, so at least a sophomore to have been able to have that course. So thank you all for participating. I'm sure any of my students would welcome you reaching out to them if you have any further questions. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. And I just thank you all for your attendance and your engagement and participation. Hopefully you all apply and encourage your students to apply for the Ghana ICA in December again. Thank you, Tajma, for putting your email in the chat.
Well, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks,
everybody. Great panel. Great discussion.